All right, and we're live. Good morning,
Oh,
everybody.
wait.
Welcome to episode 5 of Bridging the Islands with Ryan and Kelley. I'm Ryan.
Aloha, I'm Kelley. Welcome everyone to this episode of Bridging the Islands with Ryan and Kelley. I don't think we were live when you introed us, Ryan, but I think we're good now.
I don't know. It told me it was live, so I think maybe there's a little bit of delay or something.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We wanted to talk about condo insurance. So it's not a very fun topic, but it is an important topic when you're buying a condo here in Hawaii. When we're talking about condo insurance, so there's two different types of insurance on your unit. We have the master policy, which is going to be covered by the HOA. That is going to include the grounds, the exterior, any common elements. And then you have your own personal condo insurance, which will secure the items in your unit and your unit itself. But before we get started on that, we're actually going to as well have Ivy come on from Mutual Underwriters, and she is our condo insurance gal. So she's going to give us all the good info. But before that, let's have a little fun and tell us, Ryan, what's going on over there in Oahu.
Yeah, so the big event this weekend is the Jack Johnson concerts. He's got a concert on the 29th, 30th at the Waikiki Shell. It's going from 6 to 10 p.m. I'm pretty sure it's sold out. It's a pretty popular concert. Everybody around here loves to go see Jack Johnson. I know I was did my cleanup the other week with that dive group that I'm with, and they gave away a set of Jack Johnson tickets, and the person that won them were so happy, and it sounded like they couldn't get them. So I'm pretty sure that one's sold out by now. But
I bet.
yeah, he's definitely a local favorite here on Oahu. I was just watching one of his music videos, and you can see every single part, and you can recognize Diamond Head in the background of one of his scenes. You can recognize the bus that he's on. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's neat to see somebody that big here. After that, so tomorrow, actually, it's an event that I'm super interested in, and I'm kind of sad that I missed the boat on it. Is the Earthly Hawaii Adventure Race at Kualoa Ranch. So it's almost like a triathlon, but it's a little bit more. It's also got a little paddle in it as well. So that's going to go from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. So that's a run, bike, swim, paddle, all of it together. That's a lot. Run, bike, swim alone is a lot of physical work, and then you throw the paddle in. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, mad
It's
respect to anybody that does that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I didn't see what the distance was on it, but if anybody's into outdoor activities and does things on a spur, I would consider doing it on a whim if it weren't for the paddle, because I don't really paddleboard, but now I think I need to if these kind of events are around, because that looks like a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I could do the run, bike, swim though. I could do that on a whim. And then the 31st, we've got the Aloha Tower Beach House Busted Gut comedy event. And that's going to be Sunday from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. So that's a weekly thing at Aloha Tower. I actually just went to the Aloha Tower Beach House for the first time. What was it, last Saturday? And it's funny because I bumped into a couple friends there and saw that it was a super awesome spot. It's right on the water, right on the bay. Super cool spot. Definitely recommend to check out this event if you're around. But yeah, no, it's tons of fun place. I can imagine the comedy is great. It also, one of the first things that I thought about when I saw that, I was like, oh, beach house, the one in Waianae. There's 2 beach houses here on Oahu. Aloha Tower Beach House and Beach House 604 in Waianae. That one's also right on the water, right on the ocean. Highly recommend going if you're around Oahu. It's a great place, great views, great sunset. If you can get there for sunset, if you can get a sunset, well, I don't think they do reservations, but if you can get in for a table at sunset, one of the best ones you'll catch. But yeah, what about you? What's going on the Big Island, Kelley?
I love it. Just a couple events. So over here on Kona's side, there's the Hawaiian International Billfish Tournament. It's their 61st annual. It happens over a couple days. So over here in Kona, we have some of the best spearfishing in the world. some of the best fishing in general in the world. And we have a lot of fishing tournaments from time to time come through. And this is a really good one. So it's going to be their 61st annual. So that's pretty awesome. Super excited to see the town energized and a bunch of boats on the water. It's always good energy. And then over on Hilo side is the Summer Jam. And this is a free community event. It's going to feature a strongman competition, Ohana Health Fair. There's going to be a Hilo food truck festival, cakey inflatable bouncers, and a concert for the closing event. So really good fun. That's going to be all weekend long. And yeah, really exciting stuff happening over here this weekend.
Oh my gosh, it sounds like tons of fun. Do they do like spearfishing charters over there too?
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh, I need to make it over for one. That Summer Jam sounds like a pretty sweet event too. I'm not in my strongman shape anymore, but it'd be kind of cool to try and pull a bus.
Yes, really fun stuff happening this weekend. Well, great. Well, we can get started talking about some condo insurance. As I mentioned, Ivy's going to come on here in a little bit and talk about her side of it for actual being a insurance provider. So just to give you guys a little heads up here, we break down the condo insurance for personal condo insurance into 3 different types. We have our bare walls in, our as built, as purchased, and then there's an all-in policy. So we'll go through and kind of break it down for you guys. And like I mentioned before, this is for your own personal unit. So you're also going to have your master insurance policy that's going to protect the whole complex, the common elements, the pool, the yard, all that. But this is for your individual personal items. So the first one, we have the bare walls in. And this policy is going to cover all your real property from the exterior framing inward. It is the least coverage for the customer, and it creates the greatest need for coverage A for their personal condo policy. The policy also is referred to as from the studs in, meaning that the customer is responsible for all the real property from the studs in. So this is just going to be your walls in insurance. So anything that's in the unit, walls in, you're going to have an additional insurance policy to cover that. Awesome. And then the next one, Ryan, what is the next one here?
Yeah, so the as built, as purchased policy. So with this option, the condo association really insures the unit as built or as purchased. So all your original finishings. The unit owner is responsible for ensuring any sort of upgrades or additions. So, if you upgrade the countertops, if you upgrade appliances, if you upgrade anything within the unit, then that's going to be on you to ensure that you are insured for those items. This type of policy provides pretty moderate coverage from the condo association policy for the customer. It's not quite bare walls in, but it's not, maxing out what the condo association is going to provide for you.
Yes, and I definitely want to ask Ivy about this because, for instance, like the one over in Keauhou Surf and Racket, those buildings, when the huge wave took them out, those buildings were built back in the 70s. So if they had this as built, as purchased insurance, and they did upgrades from the 70s, those might not be included in your insurance policy. So if you do plan to do some upgrades to your unit, it's really important that you get with your insurer and ask them, make sure that those additional upgrades are being covered.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear what she has to say about it. Obviously insurance isn't our first job, so it's super exciting to get somebody on that can elaborate a little more on it too.
Awesome. So then this is the third.
Whoops.
There we go. This is the third one here, and it's the all-in policy. So if the master policy is all-inclusive, which is HO6, which is walls in insurance policy, covers only upgrades to the condo. So you're going to hear this a lot as well when you're getting your RR105C, which we mentioned in our previous show. And if you guys didn't catch that show, go back and watch it. It's good stuff. But in your RR 105C is going to be what you get when you get your condo docs, when you're purchasing a condo. And on there is a section about insurance, and it'll tell you what kind of master insurance policy that complex has. And a lot of times you'll see underneath that you need to get your own HO6 insurance. So they'll tell you on there that you need to get your own insurance. You're also going to see a lot of times too that there has to be a certain deductible. So, for example, their master insurance policy might only cover up to so much, and that's when you, as a personal insurer, need to be able to have that coverage to bridge that gap. And this type of master condo policy provides the most coverage for the customer. Therefore, it's not as much of a coverage A need on the customer's individual condo insurance policy. Customers with an all-in master policy should be encouraged to carry at minimum, I can't see it because the little thing there, 10% of coverage C plus the amount of the master policy deductible. So like I mentioned a second ago, that you will see sometimes on that RR 105C that you do have to have some type of coverage that is more than that deductible. Okay, and Ivy should be on any minute now. We're just cruising right through all this good condo insurance stuff. And I think one thing that's important to know as well is when you're in the escrow process and you're going through the motions, you're going to want to lock in that condo insurance sooner than later, because you can't close on your condo until you have condo insurance personally. That's one of the main requirements. So you could get right up to the finish line, and if you haven't locked in that condo insurance for yourself, it could delay the process. So just something to be mindful of. As our realtors, we do have recommendations. We work with multiple different insurance companies, and it is important that you do reach out to different ones to get different quotes. I know, like I said, I'm not a professional in the condo insurance world, but I do know, for example, sometimes if you do purchase your condo under an LLC instead of under your personal name, that could cost more for your condo insurance because it's a business now. And if you decide that you want to get flood insurance or additional, all these different insurances that are provided to you, that can change the premium as well. Let me text her. Ryan, do you have anything to add on that while I'm reaching out to Ivy?
Yeah, so actually, I sent Ivy a message when you were speaking, so hopefully she saw that. But if you want to follow up with her again, that's awesome. But what I guess something that I think is worth touching on is the difference between the insurance and a home warranty, because a home warranty is not something that you need to close your deal, but it's something that's going to be extremely helpful as you go into home ownership. So your homeowner's insurance typically is going to cover, any sort of unexpected issue that happens. So like your dwelling coverage is typically going to cover like fire and smoke, wind damage, lightning strikes, hail. But what happens when things just reach their natural lifespan and they break? That's when your home warranty will come into play. So home warranty is great. I've had a home warranty on my home since I've owned it, and it's going to cover a lot of your utilities just reaching their lifespan. The minute you purchase your home, you also want to purchase I would definitely recommend purchasing, especially if the appliances don't have their original manufacturer's warranty. I would recommend purchasing a home warranty that can cover the repairs for everything. So for example, my house was built, I believe, in 2010. So a lot of the appliances were original, including the air conditioning unit. Kitchen appliances were original. Everything was kind of reaching its natural lifespan, or at least a point where they're going to break. Maybe not their entire lifespan. But for $2,000 worth of repairs on my HVAC unit, I spent $200 in deductibles to have the home warranty, send out a contractor to do the repairs. I've got my AC compressor replaced. I've got the coils in my air conditioning unit replaced. Everything that's covered, it's typically pretty easy to get that knocked out, as long as like you're not going around breaking your appliances. Then that might not work out. But so far, I've had a pretty good experience with my home warranty, and definitely recommend having that in addition to your homeowner's insurance, because it's going to cover everything that the insurance does not.
Yes, super good. That's not too common over here on the Big Island, is getting a home warranty. I haven't
Really?
seen it that much. Yeah. And I think as well, because we don't have, on some of the home warranties, we don't have that many vendors that are opted into those.
Okay. So there's a good
So
one that EXP is tied to one, America's Preferred Home Warranty. They're hand in hand, and I know with America's Preferred Home Warranty, it's big out here because of that fact. Because there's not too many people tied in, so you get to pick your own vendor. I haven't had to use that one, so I don't know what that process entirely looks like, but that definitely helps to navigate that huge obstacle. One being a big island, you might not have a good vendor until all the way to Hilo, and you're living in Kona. That's like a 3-hour drive for that vendor to get there. So that's huge.
yes, because there's the two different types, right? There's the one where you get to pick your own vendor and then you get reimbursed from the home warranty company. And then there's one where the home warranty company has their own providers, and you have to use their providers. And that's the one that doesn't really work too good here on the Big Island.
There you go. I did. So I sold that one house on the Big Island, and we gave her as a gift the America's Preferred Home Warranty, because it's so flexible. It's super easy to use, at least from the reviews and everything else I've heard from other people that have had it or have experience with it. I don't have experience with it myself, but I definitely like the concept of choosing your own vendors.
Awesome. Let me give her one more call here and make sure she's alive and well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, she might not be joining us today, but we can read here what she does have down and start getting started, and hopefully she'll jump on here. But again, we're not condo insurers, right? So whatever we say, do reach out to a professional and get a better professional opinion. But as you can see here, hot topic. As a condo owner, do I need insurance above my master policy? So the answer is right, yes, to cover your walls and personal belongings. The coverage would be dependent on the type of master policy your condo has. So again, yes, you're going to need your own condo insurance for your walls and your personal items. And here you can see it just depends on the type of master policy that your condo has. So here selling condos in Kona, I come across this quite often. And we're talking to our insurance provider, we're talking with Ivy, and we're wondering what kind of insurance we need. So she's going to look at the master insurance policy and see what that includes, and then come back to us and tell us what we need. A good example of that would be flood insurance for a specific unit. A lot of times, a good chunk of the time, a master policy plan here in Kona specifically will cover flood insurance. So you don't have to worry about that. Sometimes if the complex doesn't have flood insurance, that's when your personal insurance provider will come and say, hey, this condo doesn't have flood insurance. You're going to need to get flood insurance. So it really just depends on what that master policy says. Another example where that could happen is if you're dealing with lending and the lender wants you to get these additional insurance policies. So if they look at the master plan and they can see that there isn't flood insurance for the whole complex, they're going to ask you to get personal flood insurance. Sometimes you can opt out of that. Sometimes, it just kind of depends on who's looking at the policy and how they're reviewing it. But that could be an issue as well. It really depends on what your lender is saying and what the master policy is saying, and working closely with your insurance provider to get everything done and nice and pretty. Oh, good. She's on.
Beautiful.
Let's bring her on here. Aloha. Hi. We can't hear you though, Ivy. I think you're muted. Let me
Here I am now.
There you go. You're good.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I was just teeing you up. I started your slides there, and we were just mentioning how you definitely need your own insurance to cover your personal walls in and property.
Yep, definitely. And some of the things that you want to know in order to be able to purchase the correct walls in policy are things like your master policy deductible, what kind of master policy it is, because there are different master policies. Some will rebuild it how it was originally built. Some will include the improvements and upgrades. Some will include the improvements that you buy when they're being built. You know how when you go to the plant, you can actually, opt into some of that next level options for that unit. So some of those things you definitely want to take into account when you are purchasing that walls in, because it's going to work together. And then you can really make sure that there's no gap there and you're fully covered. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. That's exactly what I said. So I love that you just put a little cherry on top for us.
I echoed you.
Perfect. And then I have these two questions here that I know we're all thinking, and I hope you can answer for us. Sure. If I own a condo or a home and rent it out, do I need to have insurance, or do my tenants?
So you definitely want to have insurance for the unit itself, right? When you get an insurance for a property that is rented out, there are going to have a little bit of different limits of insurance. For example, if it's a home or it's a condo that it's your primary condo or even your second home, you're going to have a little bit more personal property coverage to include your things. Whereas when you're renting it out, it depends if you're going to go short term, because then you're going to have it furnished and perhaps you're going to have it nicely staged. So there's going to be some of your things in there, and you may even have an owner's closet. Or if you're going to go long term, which at times is not furnished. So you may not necessarily need personal property coverage to a higher level. You might just want to cover some of the things that are there that are covered by personal property. So definitely you want to always make sure you have a policy. I do have clients that opt to make it where it's part of the requirement for you to rent their property, more so when it's a long-term rental contract. And then what they do is they obtain a renter's policy, and they're fairly cheap. They run anywhere between $300 to, if you really have a lot of nice stuff, it's going to run you about $400 or $500 a year. But normally $300 gets you a great little policy if you're renting a property. Yeah.
Awesome.
Love it.
Okay.
And then I have a question for you, Ivy.
Sure.
Is that all rolled into condo insurance? Is, the dwelling coverage, the personal property coverage, liability coverage, that's all rolled into that condo insurance plan, yeah?
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, the master policy have those coverages. Your personal policy would have those coverages, and your tenant will also have those coverages. So it's nice because if there's a liability situation that is potentially caused by your tenant, you're not on the hook for it.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then another one is, what should I know about my master policy? So you mentioned those deductibles.
Yep. So I think we touched a little bit on it. You definitely want to have the basic idea of what the master policy covers. The most important thing that is going to pertain to the walls in unit owner is going to be the master policy deductible, because that's potentially what you have to come to the table with to activate that policy. So, but you also want to know, how is my project covered? What's in place? Because you are part of a community. And even though you may have sufficient coverage to cover, to rebuild your unit, you're really part of a much bigger project. So, if that is not correctly in place, and if that's not doing what it's supposed to do, then your walls in is really kind of just floating around waiting, for the master policy to act, if you will. Some of the other things when you're buying into a project that you want to keep in mind are things like, what are the loss assessment requirements that they may have? Normally, we see anywhere between $10,000 to $25,000, and that goes along with some of the requirements by the AOAO, because it's been set forth by that master policy writer, the insurance carrier, if you will. Whether or not they have any liability underlying policy, which is your condo policy, any liability limit requirement. Those are some of the things that we see. In most cases, it's $300,000. Some of the higher end condos, we see $500,000 being required. Definitely who holds that policy, because if you as an owner ever have a question, you want to be able to, have access to either the management party or the AOAO or, that insurance agent. But I think those are really the key points that you need to know with the master policy, for sure.
Awesome. I do have a question, and it rolls into what Ryan and I was just talking about getting a home warranty.
Uh-huh.
And so when, as a condo owner, when something goes awry, say the fridge quits working, when is a good time to activate my homeowner's insurance versus my condo insurance? What is like a good rule of thumb for that when you actually need to make a claim?
Sure. So when you refer to the condo, you mean like the master? When you say filing between my policy or the condo policy, do you mean the master policy?
Or your home warranty?
Oh, okay. So I'm not too familiar on how the home warranty works. I do know that they have some limitations. So if it was, let us say, the fridge breaks, I'm sure you would have to fall within their guidelines of what they cover, right? Your homeowner's policy is going to cover it. What you then are going to start thinking is, does it make sense? And what is my deductible? So because I have clients, especially on the higher end condo units, that opt for a larger deductible. So maybe they have a $2,500 deductible or a $5,000 deductible. That wouldn't make sense because, you can replace that fridge on your own and then potentially not take that ding on your insurance to begin with, right? Now, if you are looking at a $500 deductible and you have this beautiful fridge that is potentially, $3,000-$4,000, that might make sense. So you always want to have that discussion, especially with your insurance agent, so that you can, even if you want to kind of just brainstorm a little bit, listen, my fridge just broke down, and it might be something bigger. It might be something related to the line in the wall, or it might be something to do with, you never know. So discussion is always good. I always say to my clients, your insurance agent should always be your first point of contact, just even if you want to bounce off an idea or, but I think that's what primarily you would look at when you're looking at weighing whether or not I file a claim, is really, what is my deductible? And ultimately, cost-wise, is this going to be worth it?
Great info.
Yeah, that's huge info. I think my my understanding of it has always been that insurance covers your unexpected natural damages like fire, smoke, wind, lightning strikes, hail. Those are the big ones that, come to mind for me. And then when I think home warranty, I'm like, oh yeah, this just kind of broke on me first thing. But that makes total sense. It makes more sense to pay the $100 deductible on a home warranty for something that's a small deal than pay that $2,500 for something that's a small deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Home warranties are normally in place for a certain period of time.
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if mine has a time limit.
Yeah, so I wonder that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the things too you want to take into account. Is it still in place?
There you go.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
For sure.
So can you break down as a condo buyer what that cost is going to look like per year to get this walls in condo insurance versus the different types?
Sure. You can get some really good, solid protection for an average, let's call our average nowadays, $750,000 to $850,000 unit. So your normal 2-bedroom, 1-bath, even a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you're going to be looking at anywhere between, nowadays, I would say maybe $400 to $500 a year. If you start, adding endorsements or features to the policy, things like short-term rental or long-term rental, additional insureds, there are different carriers that at times charge for that. So you might get into that high 500, but I think that 450, 550 is a really fair estimate for a walls in policy. Yeah.
Great.
We had a special guest there.
She loves to jump on. She starts whimpering. She's like, I need attention.
Yeah, so that's definitely a fair estimate.
Great. And then last thing here, we don't want to take up too much of your time this morning.
Oh, you're fine.
We did have a situation here in Kona where it was an oceanfront complex. A huge wave came, something that people that's lived here hasn't seen in 40 years. And it did come up and over that building. Can you kind of break down from an insurance how that falls out? Like who's the most in charge and how does that work?
Sure. Yes. And actually, you and I had the pleasure of insuring in there. A few days later, It was a hot topic among the insurance industry. So, of course, everyone is hesitant.
Talk about timing.
Yes. But we made it happen. Yes. It's funny. That's really flood insurance, right? It's flood insurance, which that property, I would imagine, has covered by the master policy. And I wouldn't be too surprised if the walls in, especially for the financed units, because legally, if you're in a flood zone, you have to obtain flood insurance as well. So I wouldn't be too surprised if the units themselves, the owners themselves, had some sort of flood coverage. So in that case, there's no condo insurance that would come into play because it's a moving body of water. So it's actually flood insurance that would have to pay out on that scenario.
Okay. So it would would it fall so on the individual's flood insurance or the whole master's flood insurance?
Yep. So the master policy would come into play because the whole entire project was in essence affected, right? And I don't remember reading the extent of damage, and I don't even know whether or not, I think it was more water damage than structural damage. The board itself, the AOAO, they are put in that position where they can actually say, listen, we don't see structural damage to the entire project, so we're not going to activate the master. And each unit owner is then, in essence, responsible for whatever damage the walls in of their unit saw. Or they may say, if you want the master policy to activate, then you're going to go ahead and have to come to the table with that deductible. And flood insurance deductibles are usually a bit high. So it would be interesting to see how that unfolds, and I'll keep an eye out for it, and I'll share it with you if I hear from the insurance industry for sure. But in that case, you're right. It would be the master policy, unless they took a hard stand. And then the unit owners would be on the hook for anything that was damaged walls in.
Yes. And then they would refer to their own, if there was tenants in there, they would refer to their own tenant rental policy for their personal belongings. So it's kind of like a trickle down effect.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. The owner's policy is only responsible for their, in this case, personal property. And then if the tenants had a policy, then the tenants would file a claim and they would then, be made whole, if you will, with their personal items. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So many different moving pieces.
It really is. And it's why I think you guys, this is so fantastic, because it's really important that when an owner buys into, a project, that there is that, cohesive relationship, especially in the insurance arena, because otherwise you can really, be in a tough situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ivy.
No problem. Thank you for having me. You guys have a great day.
You as well.
We're going to have all of her contact information below. So if you guys have any questions about condo insurance, reach out to her, reach out to us. We'll get you guys connected. But a wealth of knowledge. She's very helpful. She's helped me on a couple of my deals. So I really appreciate her joining us today.
Thanks, guys. You have a great day. Have a good morning.
You too.
Happy Aloha Friday.
Happy Aloha Friday.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Awesome. Well, that's it for all of us today. Thank you guys so much for coming, and we'll see you guys next week.
See everybody next week.